This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
So all of the JFK assassination records have now been released, or have they? Actually, the numbers don't add up, but I think I know why. The National Archives keeps mentioning 3,500 records, but we know from official records there are 3,648. We know that the transparency plan approved by President Biden, the CIA, and the FBI spoke of only 44,000 records that they were prepared to release. We know there are 319,000 records in the so-called JFK assassination document collection. The problem lies in the fact that there are a number of agencies of the government who have not transferred their documents, audios, and videos to the collection. The Central Intelligence Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, the State Department, the Department of Defense, and the Internal Revenue Service still maintain records they haven't turned over to the so-called collection. The National Security Council, National Security Agency, says they have 144 documents they have not turned over. The National Security Council has 145, the Secret Service has 154, and the Army Investigative Reports Repository has another 194 documents that have not been released. I think this is deep state bureaucrats working against the full disclosure orders of President Donald Trump. And then there's the Nix film. This refers to a video film, 8mm color home movie recorded by Orville Nix. He was a witness to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963 in Dallas. Now, Nix captured the presidential motorcade in Dealey Plaza, filming from the opposite side of the street from Abraham Zapruder. Zapruder's film would become very famous, but the Nix film is considered one of the most significant recordings of the event, largely because Nix was filming with a zoom lens and from a completely different angle, showing the grassy knoll, the area central to those who believe that there was a second shooter in the background. Nix was an air conditioning engineer. He was filming with a Keystone auto zoom camera to record the motorcade as it turned out of Houston Street, taking the turn on Elm, where the first fatal shot hit Jack Kennedy. His film includes Jackie Kennedy climbing onto the car's trunk and the Secret Service agent Clint Hill responding to her. The film also includes a later sequence of bystanders running towards the so-called grassy knoll. But unlike the Zapruder film, Nix's film is darker due to his use of an indoor film without a proper filter, but it remains a critical piece of the historical evidence. The original Nix film was seized by the FBI in December 1963. It was sold, at least a version of it was, to UPI for $5,000. The House Select Committee on Assassinations examined it in 1978, but the original disappeared after that, with only copies remaining. The House Select Committee did not include the film in their final report, but I would remind you that the House Select Committee on Assassinations determined as their final conclusion that organized crime, the mob, had been involved in John Kennedy's assassination. Yet none of the documents released from the so-called JFK assassination document collection documents this fact. Nix himself suggested back in 1966 that the film he received back from the FBI had been altered, with frames missing or damaged, fueling speculation about its contents. His daughter Gail Nix Jackson has filed a civil suit against the U.S. government seeking return of the original or compensation, arguing that it holds key clues and unresolved questions about Jack Kennedy's assassination. So where is the Nix film? There's also an audio recording of the CIA director, John McCone, his first conversation with President Lyndon Baines Johnson. There's neither a transcript or the audio of that turned over to the so-called collection and released to the American people. So far, everything that I have seen seems designed to bolster what I still think is a false narrative that Lee Harvey Oswald, who these newly released documents show us the KGB, the Russian intelligence agency who monitored him when he was in the Soviet Union, said was a poor shot, got off 3 shots all from the rear. You see, one of the reasons why the Nix film is so crucial is it will tell us whether Kennedy was, as the recent documentary put out by Paramount Plus, What the Parkland Doctors Saw, whether Kennedy was shot from both the front and the back. Those doctors, surprising number of them still living, all of them said they saw wounds in the president consistent with his being shot from the front and the back, including a huge blowout wound in the left rear of his head. Every one of those doctors also said that they were threatened by the FBI and told that they were never to discuss what they had seen in the official autopsy. Kennedy's body was removed from Texas at gunpoint in a standoff between the Secret Service and the Texas Rangers under Texas state law. The autopsy should have been performed there, but instead the body was taken at gunpoint and taken back to Bethesda Medical Center. It is at least one working theory that Kennedy's body actually left Dallas on Air Force Two, Lyndon Johnson's plane, got to the medical center early, which explains why the autopsy in Washington, D.C., actually Bethesda, Maryland, does not reflect that huge blowout wound in the back of Kennedy's head. That, of course, would be consistent with a shot from the front. Also concealed is the fact that the throat wound, which is described in the Warren Commission report as coming from behind and shot by Lee Harvey Oswald, is actually an entry wound. A tracheotomy had been performed to conceal that fact, but that is another thing that the doctors in Parkland claimed, that the wound in his throat was an entry wound. We know that Warren Commission Chairman Earl Warren, Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, was reluctant to chair the Warren Commission, the commission investigating President Kennedy's assassination, until President Lyndon Johnson implied that the Russians were really behind the assassination of John Kennedy, and that indelicate handling of that information by the investigation could lead to World War III. Of course, there is no evidence produced to date by these new documents or the roughly 1,000 documents that President Trump ordered released in 2017 that indicated either Russian or Cuban involvement in the assassination of John Kennedy. And then there are the most interesting transcripts yet. William Manchester, the author, said that he had conducted extensive interviews with Jackie Kennedy, the aggrieved, grieving First Lady, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Sr., the Attorney General. Now, those two audios are subject to a deed of gift, providing that they would not be released until 2067. The Assassinations Records Review Board almost got Caroline Kennedy to waive that condition, but Senator Ted Kennedy convinced her otherwise. Congressman Schweikert today has a bill that would overrule the amendment to the Congressional Disclosure Act that would make those audios available. And then lastly, also missing are the results of the so-called investigation by NBC of an aide by Robert Kennedy. It is shocking that all this information has continued to be concealed. Obviously, we heard an audio released 2 weeks ago, released by the grandson of Billy Sol Estes. Now, Billy Sol Estes was a crony, a Texas wheeler-dealer, very flamboyant, and he had gotten huge multi-million-dollar agricultural contracts through the largesse of his patron, Lyndon Johnson. He was kicking back to Senator and then later Vice President Johnson. He went to prison, basically taking the fall for Johnson. But when he emerged, he not only said that he had been in meetings where the murder of John Kennedy was planned, but that the killer was Malcolm Mac Wallace. In this audio tape released by his grandson, Billy Sol Estes is heard talking to Cliff Carter, who is the chief political operative for LBJ, the executive director of the Democrat National Committee, openly talking about the fact that Lyndon Johnson had recruited Malcolm Mac Wallace to shoot Kennedy. Wallace's fingerprints are found on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building, both on the windowsill and also on the cardboard boxes that form the so-called crow's nest from which Kennedy was allegedly shot. As many as 6 witnesses say that they see a man in the window of the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building that meets the physical description not of Lee Harvey Oswald, but of Malcolm Mac Wallace, heavy set, balding, wearing glasses. Wallace, by the way, had the highest rating as a marksman from the U.S. Marine Corps, while, as the KGB indicated, Oswald wasn't much of a shot. It is still my contention that what happened here was indeed a plot, but it was Lyndon Johnson at the helm. E. Howard Hunt, one of the Watergate burglars, who was on the payroll of the CIA during Watergate, one of the 4 Watergate burglars who just happened to be on the ground in Dealey Plaza in 1963, said on his deathbed that, yes, he was there. He told his son, St. John Hunt, who co-authored a book with me, but that he was a backbencher and that Lyndon Baines Johnson was calling the shots. It is still my contention that there's an independent investigation that was done by Walter Sheridan. Sheridan was a top aide to Robert Kennedy. He conducted his own investigation, and those documents, audios, videos, and reports of interviews went to NBC when Sheridan went to work at NBC. NBC refused to turn those documents over to the FBI or to the National Archive to be included in the Kennedy Assassination Documents Archive. So I think the deep state is still playing their games, and we still don't have the full truth about who killed John F. Kennedy. I think the president's order was well drawn, but I think it is time now to go back and perhaps broaden his order, as Congressman Tim Burchett and other members of Congress have done, in order to ensure that we get all these other materials. Until then, this will continue to be a murder mystery. The folks at the National Enquirer once told me that on any given month, if they were short of cash, they would put a JFK-oriented story on the cover and they would sell 200,000 more copies. The American people still want the answers, and we are not getting them. Donald Trump has issued the order, but I think deep state bureaucrats are thwarting that order, as I have outlined. Don't go away, because when we come back, we're going to talk about the attack on Tesla and the irresponsible Democrats who are actually out there advocating violence, arson, shootings, and vandalism. I'm Roger Stone, and you're in the Stone Zone.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
Hey, it's Haley Steinfeld. When everything requires your attention, it can be tough to figure out what to prioritize. But I'm here to talk to you about something that you should always put first, your breast health. In fact, if you're 40 and over, you should be getting screened once a year. And if you're under 40, it's never too soon to visit yourattentionplease.com to learn about your breast cancer risk. So go on, pay the girls some attention and take the time to find out your breast cancer risk at yourattentionplease.com. Trust me, your future self will thank you.
Empower. Claire is practicing her breathing for her upcoming yoga retreat in Bali. Has she ever done yoga before? No. But Claire worked with Empower on her savings and investment strategy. She got good at money, so she can be a little bad. Empower. Invest well, live a little. Join our 19 million customers today at empower.com.
Past performance is not indicative of future returns. Investing involves risk. You may lose money. Advisory services are provided for a fee by Empower Advisor Group, LLC, EAG, a registered investment advisor with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Om Namaste.
You know, I think what's going on here is judges gone wild. We have federal judges who are essentially thwarting the mandate given to President Donald Trump. President Trump asked the Supreme Court today to halt a ruling ordering the rehiring of thousands of federal workers let go in mass firings aimed at dramatically downsizing the federal government. As Elon Musk and Doge has proved, many of these so-called employees never show up for work, and no one's quite sure exactly what they do. Another judge has ruled that the president cannot deport illegal terrorists and criminals from the country, while yet another federal judge has ruled that the president cannot ban transgendered people from military service. This is judicial tyranny. This is an effort by a politicized judiciary. All of these judges are Democrats to thwart the will of the American people. When we come back, Mike Davis, the former chief counsel for the Senate Judiciary Committee and the founder and president of the Article 3 Project, will talk to us about how the Trump administration can deal with this question. The president has executive authority. It seems to me, as a non-lawyer, even I can understand that the judges do not have the authority to overrule decisions he makes on public policy. I think maybe the compromise here is a ruling of a 3-judge panel, but in the meantime, criminals roam the country. There's an attack on Tesla that is leading to arson, shootings, bombings, and vandalism, while these illegals are allowed to stay in the country. You're tuned in to the Stone Zone. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia myasthenia gravis or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Joining me now is Mike Davis. He's the former Chief Counsel to the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's also the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. As Chief Counsel for nominations for the committee, he advised Chairman Chuck Grassley and other senators on the confirmation of federal judges and other senior executive branch appointees. Actually, Mike Davis has served in all three branches of the federal government, including working for President George W. Bush in the Justice Department, working for House Speaker Newt Gingrich, and also working for current Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. We are pleased to have Mike Davis with us today. Mike, I have to ask you about this spasm of what appears to me to be coordinated violence against Tesla dealerships, against Tesla charging stations, against Tesla drivers and their vehicles. We're talking about Molotov cocktails, shootings, bombings, vandalism, arson. And listen to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett talk about this.
So I'll make sure that I keep it short, but I am truly here for very selfish reasons. Starting with on March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes.
And then here's the even more troubling comment where she calls for a physical attack on Senator Ted Cruz.
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching. You know, I think, and I love Colin. And I think towards the end, he started to punch a little harder. But, like, it's Ted Cruz. I mean, like, this dude has to be knocked over the head, like, hard, right? Like, there is no niceties with him, like, at all. Like, you go clean off on him, right?
Mike, welcome to the Stone Zone. Your reaction?
I would say this to these terrorists and those who are inciting these terrorists. There are new sheriffs in town, and those sheriffs are Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel. And they've already made it very clear publicly that they're not going to tolerate this. So if people want to make political violence the norm in America, they're going to end up in prison.
And we have seen that these are coordinated attacks, that there's central funding, just as we found recently that in this massive rally that AOC and Senator Bernie Sanders, the millionaire senator from Vermont, held, that there was mostly AstroTurf. This is, I think, agitprop. This is a psyop to create the misimpression that the American people don't support the drastic reforms that President Donald Trump has embarked on. I have to ask off the top, the ruling by Judge Boasberg in the District of Columbia, in that district, that the president doesn't have the authority to deport terrorists and other illegals, including criminals. Is he not vastly overreaching, going well beyond his authority?
Yes, D.C. Obama Judge Jeb Boasberg his orders are both lawless and dangerous. They're lawless because, separate from statute, the president, as the commander-in-chief under Article 2 of our Constitution, has the absolute constitutional power, in fact, duty, to repel invasion of our country. And that's exactly what's going on with these foreign terrorists, Tren de Aragua from Venezuela or MS-13 from El Salvador. These are the most vicious terrorists and criminals in the Western Hemisphere. They are invading our country. They are kidnapping, robbing, raping, torturing, murdering. And the president is fulfilling his constitutional duty and his campaign promise to get these monsters the hell out of America. And this Judge Boasberg does not have the power to order what he's ordering. At best, this would be a habeas petition from these terrorists in El Salvador and Texas, not these activist lawyers running to these activist judges in D.C. and getting these illegal, unlawful TROs and other injunctions. And it's dangerous because this judge held this hearing 2 Saturdays ago during the middle of the ongoing military, intelligence, and law enforcement operation, and exposed the operation, putting American and allied lives in grave danger. This Judge Boasberg ordered the planes turn around the terrorists, which is insane. We saw the security footprint in El Salvador with hundreds of officials ready to receive these terrorists. We probably did not have the same footprint in America because no one would ever imagine that a judge would open up a hearing during the middle of the operation and order planes turn around. He didn't know the fuel levels when it was flying over the Gulf of America. It's just absolutely insane that this judge ordered this, and it's dangerous because why would a foreign leader trust that a secret operation with the president will remain secret? Why would a foreign leader want to put his neck on the line to do a foreign operation with the president of the United States if an activist judge is going to expose it and sabotage it?
In the meantime, you have other federal judges with other rulings. You have a judge in California ruling that the president cannot fire some 16,000 he cannot fire federal employees at will, and has ordered him to rehire some 1,600 probationary employees. Yet another judge has ruled that he cannot ban transgender people in our military. This is judicial tyranny. But for those who say, those judges need to be impeached, impeaching a federal judge is an extraordinarily high bar. First of all, you need grounds. I'll let you address that. But it's also secondarily, it's much like the impeachment of a president. The impeachment in the House is merely an indictment. You would go to a trial in the Senate, and you would need a 2/3 vote to remove a federal judge. Very difficult, no?
Yes, but I think it serves as an important deterrent. Look, I have never called for a judge to be impeached. I have never called for anyone to ignore a judge's order until now, because what Boasberg did is not only so lawless, it is very dangerous. It put American and allied lives in jeopardy. It hindered the president's ability to conduct foreign affairs then and in the future if you can't trust the president, right, if you're a foreign leader. And so I have called for both the president to ignore this lawless order. This judge is doubling down, trying to get operational details about the military mission to which this judge is absolutely not entitled. He says he has a security clearance. Well, guess what? You may have a security clearance, but you don't have the need to know. So you don't get this information, Judge. It's not your job to meddle in military affairs. And I think impeachment, you're right, it's a high bar. It's unlikely to succeed in the Senate, but I want to make the process the punishment. I want this to serve as a deterrent. I was the chief counsel for nominations on the Senate Judiciary Committee with the oversight portfolio for the federal judiciary. I know that calling for impeachments will get the Chief Justice's attention, and the point of this is to the Chief Justice. He needs to get his judicial house in order. And if he refuses to do it, Congress is going to do it for him, whether it's impeachment, whether it's stripping jurisdiction from these judges, whether it's taking away funding. There needs to be serious reforms to these activist judges' courts so they stop sabotaging the president.
When we come back, we're going to talk to Mike Davis about these other illegal actions and whether President Trump's appeal to the Supreme Court can be successful. Whatever you do, you're in the Stone Zone. Don't touch that dial. We will be right back with Mike Davis, former counsel to the Senate Judiciary Committee, on the latest judicial tyranny. We're talking with Mike Davis, the former chief counsel for nominations to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. He's also the founder and president of the Article 3 Project. That's A3P. The Article 3 Project defends constitutionalist judges and the rule of law. Mike, tell folks where they can go to get more information on your great organization.
I appreciate that, Roger. Article3project.org. Article3project.org.
It is a very worthy nonprofit. Mike is a fighter for the Constitution, for the America First agenda. Mike, the Justice Department has filed a motion to disqualify U.S. District Judge Beryl Howell from overseeing a lawsuit brought by the hard-left Democrat activist law firm Perkins Coie. Perkins Coie, of course, is the law firm that commissioned the Steele dossier. I'm very familiar with Judge Howell. First of all, remember that she ordered President Trump's own lawyers to testify against him in the so-called documents case, clear violation of the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. She also essentially upheld the unconstitutional gag order on me when I went to trial in the Russian collusion hoax frame job in Washington, D.C. Nowhere does it say that if you are charged with a crime, you lose your First Amendment free speech rights. I filed a writ of mandamus, and she sat on it for 8 months while I was savaged by CNN and the Washington Post, and then ruled just before trial that my motion was not yet ripe for a decision because I had not asked Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who placed the unconstitutional gag order on me, to remove it. So tell us about your views on this case. What are Judge Howell's conflicts of interest in the Perkins Coie matter?
Well, what the Trump Justice Department raised in its motion to disqualify Judge Beryl Howell is that she's just demonstrated repeated hostility to President Trump. And they've documented multiple instances where she's been publicly hostile. For example, she appeared at a women's white-collar Defense Association gala back in March of it would have been November of 2023, and she delivered a speech there, and she talked about essentially how we're at a crossroads as a country, and essentially Trump was a dictator who was going to destroy America is her thesis for her speech back in 2023. Well, obviously, if you think a party before you is a dictator and you've gone out there and said that he's a dictator, essentially, you're probably not going to give that party a fair shake before your courts.
I had that same experience in D.C. The judge in my case, Amy Berman Jackson, praised the jury when they came back with a guilty verdict. And then when we learned that the jury forewoman, who had said during jury selection and throughout my trial she was unfamiliar with me, she wasn't familiar with my case, had been attacking me and Donald Trump by name regarding the very case in which she had been selected as a juror. Thanks to the journalist Mike Cernovich, we learned this. The judge insisted that was not evidence of bias, and she refused to give me a new trial. She also said in at my sentencing that I had been convicted of covering up for Donald Trump. That was not a charge, and there was nothing to cover up. It was only later, after I was fully pardoned, and BuzzFeed sued the U.S. Justice Department to get the long-redacted, long-hidden final report from Robert Mueller, removing all the black marks covered the sections about me, that Mueller himself admitted that he had found no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other crime, and that the problem with prosecuting me for any of those things was that there was no factual basis for the charge. Nonetheless, I have experienced the D.C. swamp firsthand. Do you think now that the president has a good chance of getting the Supreme Court to step in all of these federal actions where you have politically motivated judges exceeding their authority and essentially challenging the executive authority given to the President of the United States in the Constitution?
Well, I would say this to the Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts. The legitimacy of the federal judiciary is on the line. And when the federal judiciary loses its legitimacy with the American people, it loses everything. It does not have an army to enforce its orders. It relies on the executive branch. And you have President Trump campaigned on the fact that he's going to hire Elon Musk, set up the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, root out waste, fraud, and abuse, secure our border, and deport these illegal immigrants, particularly foreign terrorists, Trende Aragua, and international gangbangers, MS-13. And President Trump is doing the unthinkable. He's actually doing what he promised American voters he would do, and he's doing it fast. President Trump is not stealing legislative power from Congress under Article 1. He's not stealing judicial power from the Supreme Court under Article 3. He is exercising core Article 2 executive power. And you have these activist judges who are serving as the last line of defense for the Trump resistance, because Trump won a broad electoral mandate, 312 electoral votes, all 7 swing states, the popular votes. He kept the House. He won a comfortable margin in the Senate. The American people gave President Trump and his allies a mandate to do what he promised he would do. These activist judges are not exercising judicial review under Article 3. They are exercising judicial sabotage of the president's Article 2 powers. And if the Supreme Court does not stop this, if the Supreme Court does not stop these lawless temporary restraining orders in name only, when they're actually legislation but from the bench, and executive orders from the bench, if the Supreme Court does not get its judicial house in order, if the Chief Justice does not stop these activist judges from sabotaging the presidency, then it's going to be this is going to end very badly for the judiciary, because if the Chief Justice won't get his house in order, Congress will, through impeachment, through appropriations, through oversight, through jurisdiction stripping. This is unacceptable what these activist radical judges are doing, and it's only gotten worse because the Chief Justice and Justice Barrett failed to do their job 3 weeks ago and stop Judge Ali from sabotaging the president on foreign aid, and that only emboldens. And now we have judges trying to sabotage military operations. It's unacceptable.
It's extraordinary to watch the left insisting that Elon Musk has no authority, that he can't possibly dig into not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars of waste, fraud, and corruption, when, of course, his authority flows from the chief executive. The chief executive has the power to grant him that authority. The same people who say that he wasn't elected, well, Dr. Fauci was not elected. The difference is that Elon Musk's public service is probably costing him money, whereas Dr. Fauci and his wife, both federal bureaucrats, made millions and millions of dollars on the vaccinations that they were pushing and trying to mandate. Who could be in favor of waste, fraud, and corruption? It is a sure bet that those who are yelling the most have the most to hide. And USAID, which was, I think, nobly caused by President John F. Kennedy as a way to fund Central and South American countries who were fighting communism, has morphed into a slush fund for the radical left. It is essential the Supreme Act. I'm not much of a vote counter. I've been disappointed in Judge Barrett, and I don't know at the end of the day whether this court will stand up and support what the American people overwhelmingly voted for in the last election. I think we have to pray for that. Again, Mike Davis joining us. Mike, tell us one more time where people can go to the Article 3 project that you so ably run.
I appreciate that, Roger. It's article3project.org, article number 3project.org. You can follow us on social media, donate, and the most important thing your listeners can do is take action.
All right. Many thanks to our guest, Mike Davis, and for all of our listeners here in the zone. Until we meet again, God bless you and Godspeed.